And we're back from the Blue Corner. My name is Dennis, and as you can see, this week was the week for me. My almighty Lakers took the 2020 championship. I had to put that out there. It's been a good 10 years since we got the last championship, and it does feel kind of good, especially the year that's been 2020. But yeah, I just wanted to say that from the top of the show. But anyway, before we get onto it, I just want to remind people to make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, do all that good stuff. It always helps, and it lets us know, if we're traveling in the right direction. But today we will call this show Aussies Abroad. Apart from the fact that I guess no one's in jail and no one's arrested, which is always a good thing. But I'm joined today by an Aussie that is now living in San Fran. He's been there, I think, for approximately 2 years. He goes by the name of Flossy. He's a Muay Thai fighter with a pro record of 1-0. And he's also got a fight coming up mid next month. I'm talking about none other than Andrew Webb himself. He joins me via video call. How have you been? How's 2020 been treating you, and what is going on?
Howdy, Dennis. Thanks for having me on. It's been pretty wild being in the States during COVID, seeing as they got the highest number of deaths. Been on lockdown for a while. Been off work for 6 months. Just getting some training in. It's been good for training. Haven't had much to do work-wise. So it's been a wild ride so far.
So when you say you've been on lockdown, are the lockdowns really that harsh? And I only ask this because, as I just mentioned, the Lakers have taken the championship this year, right? And the first thing I saw is, even though it was like, obviously the game itself was in a bubble, I saw that the celebrations outside of Staples Center were absolutely insane. And once again, there were a few people wearing masks, but I'm like, there weren't that many people wearing masks. And then, like, I think at the moment, a few months back, New York was the hot spot for cases. But I think the latest statistics say that California are actually the hot spot at the moment. So yeah, what is the vibe like over there? Like, is it real lockdowns, or is it just like kind of suggested that you keep to yourself?
So the first month we were mandatory lockdowns, like don't go outside unless like you could go out for exercise and to get food and stuff like that. But other than that, go home. No businesses were open, gyms weren't open, nothing was open except for essential needs, food, stuff like that. It got a bit better. Everyone in SF started wearing masks inside, or it's mandatory to be inside with a mask. So it's been pretty chill here. I know I went down to LA in July, and Orange County, not one person was wearing a mask. It was pretty wild. I'm walking around with a mask on, everyone's looking at you going, why are you wearing a mask? I'm like, there's been a few people dying so far. So New York's calmed down, but I heard it's back on the rise again in certain communities.
Well, yeah, my partner's from New York, and at the moment, like, she's in Brooklyn, and she's saying that they are starting to close, like, suburbs of Brooklyn. They're starting to close them up again. I mean, the scary thing for me, I guess, is, we over here we've done all right. So you should have stayed in Australia, but we've done all right here, and we've just been through winter. I think that's probably the concerning thing, is that you guys have had these numbers in summer, but you're now heading into winter, which is flu season and everything like that. And that's, I guess, where a lot of things will come out now, like weather.
Yeah, definitely on the East Coast. Their winters are much more extreme than over here in California. So it's pretty mild here in the Bay Area. Doesn't rain a lot, doesn't get too cold. LA's a bit better. San Diego's a bit better. So I think it shouldn't be too bad, but I'd watch those East Coast states.
And so what originally got you across to the States anyway? Obviously, why would you want to leave the land down under?
My wife has a company that got some investment from a company here in San Francisco. So they decided to expand, move over to the US and build it up for the US market. So they ended up shutting down the Australian market. It's just a numbers game. So it's 330 million people here compared to the 25 in Australia. So it's been going good.
Yeah, nice. And
she works pretty hard.
And I have to ask only because we always read articles over here from like Americans coming over to Australia, right? And they always have these articles about like the major differences from an American's perspective, you know, and they talk about that our traffic lights, for instance, make noise to let pedestrians know when to cross and little things like that, little quirky things. But I want to flip that on its head at the moment and get an Australian's opinion of America and like, you know, what are some of your likes, your dislikes? What are some of the, I guess, differences from your eyes?
So the first thing would be you buy something. There's like a 2 for $5 on Red Bull at the shop. You go to give them $5, and they're like plus tax. Everything is plus tax. So whatever price you see is not what you pay. You pay plus tax on top, and the tax varies from different county, different state, different area. So it's crazy. Whereas in Australia, it's 10%, and it's added to the price. That's number one. The whole Fahrenheit, miles, inches, pounds. Like I'm still getting my head around that. The traffic lights do make noise in Australia, and that's always helpful when you're not paying attention. Otherwise, you'll miss it here if you're not looking.
Which always makes me wonder, right? Like, I mean, obviously, though, that noise is more for blind people, I would say, right? It's to let blind people like. So, how do blind people? I mean, I don't know if you even know the answer, but like, how do they know when to cross the road?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. They got the blind bumps at the crossing to like let them know they're at the crossing, but to walk across, there's no. Every now and again, I'll be in a random place and they'll do them, and I'll be like, all right, taken back by that. That's cool. But everywhere else is.
So let me ask you: Are you still an Aussie abroad, or have you actually got full? I guess have you got your green card, your citizenship, or like put it this way: are you voting in November?
No, I'm not. I am on a temporary work. My wife is on a temporary work visa, and I'm the dependent on that visa. So it's renewable every 2 years as long as her company's here. That means we have to fly out of the country or come back to Australia to renew the visa. At the moment, that's pretty impossible because there's not much going on flight-wise. If we want to get home, it's going to cost us about $15,000 each. The flights are limited. They're preferencing business class over economy. Then paid quarantine. It's like a 30 grand trip for two of us back to home. Like I love Sydney, but you know, I'd rather go to Europe with that money.
Right, which is crazy. Like just the expense. But I mean, I think that'll all change. To be honest with you, I think a lot will change in November, right? Depending on what's going on over there. And I think for us, a lot, my date that I've been setting is that a lot will change in March. And the reason being is, I don't know if you've kept up to date with what's going on over here, but our kind of like stimulus sort of packages, we've got like the Job Seeker and Job Keeper, which are these payouts. And at the end of last month, they kind of, you know, minimized them a little bit. January, they'll reduce them again. And then March, they're kind of saying that's it. And I just feel that once there's no more government support for the people, I just feel like we're going to have to open up again, right? Because, I mean, you know, Australia, sure. we depend on the tourist dollar. So it's kind of like if we can't have tourists and we can't have that money, yet we're not getting support, it's kind of like it'll lead to, as I say, like I just think come March we'll kind of, and look, people were talking that we might have a vaccine by Christmas, and I don't know if they're rushing it or not, but you know, I really feel March is kind of where we're looking, and then I think things will get back to normal. Whether you still have to do the hotel quarantine or not, that's to be decided. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't do well locked in rooms. 2 weeks in a hotel, I think I'd go a bit crazy in there after a while.
But at least you'd be there with your wife, right? So like...
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, it's better than being alone, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the weird thing that I find with that is that they've really put people up, like the hotels that are doing the quarantines are actually like 5-star hotels, hence why they're so expensive, right? Because you're paying 5-star rates.
Yeah.
And it's like...
It can be pretty hit and miss too. I've seen some of the food options. Like I do keep up with the news back home, and just some of the food, like a ham sandwich. Here you go, mate. That's your lunch today. I'm like $3,000. I'm like,
but then I've also seen you can get like Uber Eats and stuff, and I've seen that people get people to drop it off KFC and stuff like. So you can get, and I don't know how that works. Like how does the food come into the bubble? Like if an Uber Eats delivery driver comes and goes, I've got this for, like, how does that all work? Like to make sure that there's no contamination, right? Like I don't know. It's
those security guards. They're sneaking the food in.
Yeah. And have you heard the story about the security guards?
Yeah.
The ones in Melbourne?
Yeah. Classic.
So
good.
So anyway, let's start a little bit. I guess a little bit of history. I mean, you hit me up a couple of weeks back, obviously to organise coming on, and funny thing you mentioned is that you were like, and it was a major throwback when you know you mentioned you're like, you know, the Bliss and Esso days, and obviously that's been a major throwback because. Me actively, I probably haven't even done much with the boys. Better part of probably 5 years now. So like to have that come out was like a major, as I say, a major throwback, right? Because I mean, I did do stuff with them for the better part of 12, 13, maybe even 14 years. But then you add the 5 years of being inactive, we're talking like 20 years, you know, like there's a lot of history there. So, and we were just talking before and you said you were actually at one of the video clip shoots that we held at a guy, one of our boys, which is RJ, at his compound.
Yeah, that was lit. They put up a thing on MySpace and we got some... whoever replied, first 50 people reply can come down for free. I'm going to shoot the video clip and drink some beers and jump on the half pipe. And there ended up being some graffiti too. Everyone was tagging the toilets. So we jumped on that straight away, got in, and then, so been watching those boys for a minute now, probably since Flowers in the Pavement. And then, yeah, they've been dropping albums left, right and centre since then.
And in your opinion, what's your favorite album?
Man, there's some, probably the first three. Flowers, not the first three, but Flowers, Day of the Dog, and then what's the next one? It's been a minute. Flying Colours. That's when I was like right into it, you know. Living that Aussie hip hop dream. It's good stuff, man. It's good memories.
And have you been keeping up? Like they obviously released a new track and video clip a few weeks back now for Lighthouse.
I didn't see that. I'm gonna have to check that one out for sure.
Okay, so they're finally back. I mean, it's taken them a wee minute, but they released, and I mean the clip is pretty solid, man. Like you're like, wow. Like so they've taken a bit of time getting there, but the product that they've actually released is really nice. But I would like to see what else comes out of that album, because obviously they've only dropped the one single, and they even did like a live performance from the top of Centrepoint Tower.
Oh, that's lit.
right, for the song, and they had like a swooping helicopter and everything. So even that, like, and that's not the official video. So they did the official video and they did this live performance video. But yeah, it's pretty gnarly, and I have to say, it's when we look at verses, Bliss. So his verse on that is pretty deep, man. I think it's one of his better verses. I'm the same. I love a lot of their earlier stuff, but it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big part of my teenage years. Those earlier albums has been good.
So listen, obviously your fight name Flossie. 2 questions on that. Well, one's kind of like something I read, and then the other is the question. First thing is, I read that it used to be Fairy Floss. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, that's my official fight name, but it's been shortened.
Okay, so
everyone calls me Flossie now. That's it.
Okay, so my question is, how do you come across a fight name Fairy Floss? What is the deal with that?
All right. So you got a whole heap of testosterone in the gym. So boys are, naturally giving each other shit all day. It was just before my first fight. That would have been November 2005, 2006. I was a very loudmouth kid in the gym. Not much skills yet, but, talked my way into it. And I was complaining about something at the gym one day about the training, and I think one of the boys told me to shut up and just said, "You're soft like Fairy Floss," something like that. And then I heard my trainer laugh. He was sitting in the office while we were training, and he just laughed. And then he wrote it down because I thought it was his promotion, one of the Pitbull fight nights. And then he just laughed and wrote it down, and then it's like stuck to the bottom of my shoe ever since. And it's just evolved from that. So soft like Fairy Floss. It's pretty upsetting if someone comes at you with that name and wins.
Hey, and if you can own it, why not, right?
Yeah, I had no choice.
But yeah, it was funny because, as I said, Flossie, I was like, what does Flossie even represent? And then as I digged in a little more, it was like I saw somewhere, I forgot where it was, and it was like Fairy Floss, and I'm like, okay, well that explains Flossie, but I'm like, why Fairy Floss? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty cool. So you've been fighting since, you said 2005?
I think I started 2005. My first fight was 2006. I would have been 17. So I started training. I worked at a computer shop for as an apprentice, fixing computers with my neighbor Daniel. One of the customers was a pro kickboxer, Shane Meads. Used to fix his computer, and then he brought it in. It was just his background was him kicking someone in the head. It was great, and we were like, "Fuck yeah, that's sick." And me and Daniel used to go to the gym and do weights and stuff like that, but we weren't enjoying it. And I would have been 15, 16 at that point. And then we went and watched him fight, and he broke this dude's arm in like round 1 with a kick. And we were like, yes, that's sick. Then after that, he come back in, and we're like, hey man, how do we get into this? So that looks fun to do. We want to do some training and want to learn how to defend, Did that. Shane he trained at Bulldog in Castle Hill, but he lived in Greystanes where I lived. So he took us to Paul Grimer in South Wentworthville, just down the road. And that was it. They were locked in for the last, how many years? That's been now 15 years. I've got him tattooed on my arm. The gym represents. So big shout out to Paul Grimer. He's shaped me, not as a fighter, not just a fighter, as a human as well. So it's a good family friend of mine too.
And has it always been Muay Thai for you, or have you ever thought about potentially obviously getting into the MMA side of things or stuff, or you're a Muay Thai fighter?
So when I started kickboxing was probably more prominent in New South Wales and Melbourne. Muay Thai was there. Like, it was definitely, the ball was rolling, but it wasn't. There was more kickboxing fights on the card than Muay Thai rules. And so to get fights, I switched between the two, but I found kickboxing not as a good of a fit as like full Thai rules to me. And there was also like modified Thai rules. There was like all these different sets of rules. You could knee to the body, no knees to the head, no elbows, knees to the body and head, no elbows, and then full Thai rules, knees and elbows to the head. So my first fight was padded, full Thai rules, knees and elbows to the head. And then they found a loophole in the legislation. We got rid of the pads. So all my amateur fights were mostly without pads. So pro rules, just amateur rounds.
I was actually going to ask that because I've seen a couple of your fights, and obviously I saw your pro debut, but I also saw some of your amateur fights. And I was like, when I was watching that, the only difference I could notice was that you got a little bit more color on your back tattoo. That was it. Right? Like, no, but seriously, like, because I was watching that and there were knees, there were elbows. Usually for the MMA side of things, you know, if it's amateurs, there's shin pads and so, or like even headgear sometimes for some of these events. And I was looking at some of your amateur fights and I was like, so what is the actual difference? Like, as I said, the only difference I could see is that you had more color in your pro fight on your back than you did in your amateurs. In regards to your frame, to as I said, the rules that are being used, I just felt like it was the same.
Yeah. So at around, I think it was 2012, 2013, the New South Wales government brought in the Combat Sport Authority. Probably had to deal with them to be in the corner of a fight. It was largely self-regulated industry before then. As I said, my first fight was like headgear, chest guard, elbow pads, shin pads. That's the rules that we thought we had to do. And then the loophole was found. Muay Thai wasn't in the legislation, so it was balls to the wall, go for it. No pads, no headgear. I strongly disapprove of headgear anyway. I think it does more damage than good.
And why do you say that?
Bigger target, restricted vision. It can heat up your brain in peak physical exertion. It can get pulled over your eyes, so another loss of vision. I know that's happened. I've seen it happen as I've judged fights in Australia too afterwards. A false sense of security, so accumulated blows to the head. If you were supposed to get stopped with 5 hits and you received 20 because the headgear stopped you, your body's natural response to being knocked out, then I think copping 20 hits when you were supposed to stop at 5 is worse. The only thing it might be good for would be stopping cuts in amateur boxing with head clashes or Muay Thai with elbows. So...
Well, that's that. But like as I say, like I originally always thought, they'd do modified rules, i.e. you couldn't throw elbows and stuff. But I guess, when Muay Thai is all about, what's it called? The art of 8.
Art of 8, yep.
Limbs, or is it 8 limbs or whatever? So I guess
8 limbs, yeah.
Yeah, I guess taking elbows out would just totally go against what Muay Thai is anyway, and that's probably why they keep it. Because I know, for instance, like here now in Sydney with MMA, for instance, you can knee, but only to the body. You can't knee to the head, for instance. We can't use elbows. So, and because of that, they also restrict, like for instance, spinning attacks, because they say, you go for a spinning back fist, and you misjudge the distance, all of a sudden that fist becomes a spinning back elbow, and so for us in the MMA world here, I don't know about so much in the States, but over here, like they do limit what you can use.
Yeah, so that'll be the case here now. And after the regulation came in New South Wales, they put elbow pads on, they put the headgear on. I don't think they limited any like back elbow. I think back elbows are allowed. I'm not too sure because it's been a minute since I've checked out the rules there. So I had two amateur fights here in the States after being a amateur fighter in Australia without any of that regulation. So 12 to 6 elbows were legal, spinning back elbows were legal, knees to the head were legal, and then coming here and they're going, no knees to the head, no 12 to 6 elbow. You got to wear pads on your elbows. You got to wear shin pads. I'm like, oh God, I need to turn pro. So we
because it is hard, right? Because you end up just, I think it's the same thing. You end up then spending that time backstage more worried about obviously these rules and potentially not breaking any of them than you do about the fight, because you know, like a lot of it becomes natural instinct after a while, right? So, and that's what I always find, like, especially with different commissions as well, that, you know, you can go to Vegas and get a different rule set than, say, New York or whatever. Like, I always find that weird too, because, I mean, I had Sharpie on, who's obviously a ref over here and things like that, and I say, does it make it even difficult to judge and to ref when constantly, you know, depending on what state you're in, you're actually playing by a different set of rules, you know? And I think it ends up becoming more confusing than anything else.
Yeah, a unified rule system would be good, but when people are in control and they want to keep that control, then they're not going to team up with other people and help the sport grow.
And I think it's a money thing too, right? Like, and that's as well. It's like we want to, but like, for instance, I find it weird back here at home is, you know, in New South Wales you need the blue book. Queensland you don't even need that. Like, and I'm like, so who sanctions it? Doesn't matter. So
Queensland is, I know there was some sort of government regulation coming in. I don't know if it ended up staying self-regulated, but that's how New South Wales was back in the day with Muay Thai. That's why Queensland's like the home of Muay Thai.
And that's also why
to Thailand.
And that is why also right now Queensland are the only ones having fight nights, right?
Yeah, I've seen some stand-up fights. I haven't seen any MMA ones. I'm not too sure about that, but yeah, they've started doing shows. I know the Combat Sport Authority's still saying no in New South Wales, and it's like promoters, fighters. Like my trainer Paul has a boxing ring that he hires out. It's hurting the whole industry. So they hurt the whole industry in 2015 when they told us we had to wear headgear and there's no shows and we've got to reapply, and all the sanctioning bodies had to reapply. It hurt everyone then, and now this COVID's hurting everyone again now.
But it makes no sense because, as I say, I just kind of feel like the Combat Sports Authority just want to take a holiday right now. That's how I honestly feel about it. And the reason I say that, right, is, look, we're coming to the back end of our football season, right? They're now allowing crowds back on. So it's not even like playing with no crowd. So you've got like these football stadiums right now with 18,000 people drinking beer, carrying on, and that's fine, but we can't have a fight night, right? And to the point, my coach was meant to have a finale fight night last weekend, and he tried. He looked at every avenue. Like he was thinking about moving the fight card all the way up to Queensland to get it across the line, but he couldn't do that because
can't get over there
because the border's shut, so we can't actually physically go over, right? So, and then he was like, looking, what if we go to Canberra, the ACT, see if they have a different rule set and stuff. But it makes no sense because the program that he runs, which I don't know if you're familiar with, is the Wim to Warrior program, right? So the whole presumption there is you get these people in and they train to, it's kind of like, I guess, like the Ultimate Fighter house, right? So, except they're not actually living together, but they train together for 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, they put on a finale night. They match these people off and you're fighting. So you actually know who you're fighting. Now, the weird thing with that is they were allowed to, I mean, obviously there was a couple of months of lockdown where gyms had to close, but since then they've reopened. And so he can legally still continue to train these guys are sparring every day, 5 days a week, right? But you can't have a fight night. And you're fighting the same guys you're sparring against, right? And if anything, I think the sparring's got more risk because in the mornings you're switching sparring partners. So you might in the one session spar against like 5-6 different people. When you're fighting, you're only fighting the one, right? And so we originally thought like, is it the crowds? And because normally they get like 6, 7, 800 people, but as I said, the football's allowed to have 18,000. Mind you, bigger venues, we get that, but like, right? So he was like, what about if we limit it to like 150 people? And they were like, no. And then he even turned around and said, okay, what if we follow the suit of, say, the UFC or whatever, and we have a fight night, no crowd. He was already looking into streaming options, so obviously friends and family could tune into the stream and all that. So no crowd, you're fighting against someone that you're sparring against anyway, right? So like when you look at it, like what is the issue? And they still said no. They literally still said no.
As long as Scott Morrison can go watch his beloved Sharkies play, I think the NRL will be fine. But everyone else is pretty fucked. Yeah, it's a lot of hypocrisy going on with that. That's why the fight is happening in Mexico, because I was listening to the promoter last night. He was on a podcast. I'll send that to you after. The commission wanted the promoter to pay for everyone to be in quarantine, not leave, do all that, same as UFC, but for a show that isn't raking in UFC dollars, it's not plausible. So this way we get to fight, and I think he's doing an excellent job of building this up so it can be a regular thing as well. With the pay-per-view, it's only $8. Facebook Live, there's a new feature. They're doing live pay-per-views through Facebook now, and I think they're one of the first to trial it out for them. So it's going to be interesting. This way, I think 300 people max at the moment, and the closer it gets to the fight, they'll reassess to see what the option is for people to come. But the pay-per-views are a good option for us to stay active and people to get out there and watch it.
And as a fighter competing, like, is there like any, I mean, obviously you've signed on the dotted line and you're doing it. So, but has there been any kind of, and just also knowing the number of infections that America's dealing with and stuff, has there ever been like a second thought in the back of your mind? Like in the sense of not about the fight, about just, like we are in this weird area with the pandemic and stuff like that. Have you thought like, oh, if I do this, do I end up getting infected? And has that ever been a thought or not?
Of course. You have to worry about all that sort of stuff. I don't have my parents here or any like older relatives. So it's just me and my wife. The guys that I've been training with, it's been a small group of the same people. So it's been pretty contained. Did go a bit crazy in the house for the first bit because I live in an apartment with no backyard, and I live in a pretty dicey area in SF. So you can't just go hang out in the park or go for a walk at night. But at some point you have to get out there. So sanitizing, keeping my distance, I'm wearing my mask. I feel safe doing that myself. I know people say against it otherwise, but definitely in the back of my mind, but I'm gonna have to keep moving forward.
And in regards to like traveling across to Mexico, is there any sort of like, what's the procedure there? Like, do you need to get an exemption first and foremost? Because I mean, look, even before the pandemic, right, there was all this talk about that, Trump's building a wall and stuff like that to obviously separate the two. Now we've got the pandemic on top of that. So, yeah, is there any sort of kind of loopholes that you've had to jump through, or is it pretty standard over there now that you can, like, as I said, like, for instance, here, we can't go to Queensland, right? So, like, there's those state borders where obviously here we're not even dealing with state borders, I guess. But as I always say, like, you're living in the land of the free, where basically people are probably not, got the whole, well, you can't tell us what to do. We're going to travel, because I know my mates in Vegas and stuff. They've been flying around like domestically through this whole thing. Like, even like at the peak of the pandemic, I've seen them. They're like, oh yeah, we just went to San Diego and we went here, and I'm like, you guys are still flying? We can't fly. Like, we literally domestically, we can't fly. We're done, like, and they're like, yeah, we can fly. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, they some of the airlines did like no one in the middle seat. Then some were like, they just packed it on, because a lot of them, they're about to go under. So I think they just went, fuck it. The first place I went was LA for Independence Day. That was in July. That was the first time I left the city since the lockdown. That first 2 months, we were told not to leave the city. It's the same with the other Bay Area, like Oakland and stuff like that. They had to stay in Oakland. We had to stay in SF. They had to stay in San Jose, stuff like that. So to limit the spread. So I think they were doing it okay here, but some of the southern states were just like, we'll do what we want, and that comes with the freedom here in America. Other than that, where else did we go? We went to Utah. So we've been doing a lot of hiking and camping, me and my wife, because can't come home, can't go overseas. So we've been doing a bit more exploring.
And it's the Aussie thing to do. Like, I keep trying to tell my missus, right? Because she's New York, she's a city girl, right? And I'm like, yeah, but there's something about camping. But I think that's a very Australian thing, right? Like, to get out there and get along with nature.
So now it's started, like, we went top corner of California, just above Reno there, Lassen National Park, and we were good, but it was getting cold. And like anything else, you're going to need some like proper gear to do it. So anyone over in the East Coast is not good right now for camping. Utah was great. It's good. People wearing their masks most of the time, or they'll see you and they'll put their mask up. So I felt good. And outdoors, I feel better outdoors than being inside.
And I have to say, Utah, I went there. Was it the last trip or the trip before? I was actually one of my friends from Vegas. He had a friend who had a wedding in Utah, and I was his +1. So that was my first experience of Utah and being a wedding crasher. It was actually pretty funny because I knew absolutely no one. But going back to the original thing, so going to Mexico now, is there any sort of, like, as I say, is there any sort of loopholes, or is it just no? You can travel across the border and it's pretty easy?
The border is open. I have to check on certainties for like who can cross, but the promoter's been going back and forth. For us to go down, we have to get a COVID test within, I think, 5 days of the fight. So to have the COVID test in hand, they're doing all temperature checks and stuff like that at the border as well. I think it'll be okay to get across. No problems with that, with those two.
And are you taking your wife as well, or is she staying back in San Fran?
No, she's my number one supporter. She'll come on down with me. She's been to all my fights so far. She loves it. There's a few people coming down, so I've got my trainer, my wife, a couple of the boys want to come down. We rented a house on the beach, so everyone can come and stay and hang out. Probably be down there for about Thursday to Sunday over that weekend, just because getting back into the US on a Sunday across the land border is it's like a 6-hour wait in the car. There's ways to do it. You just drive to the border, walk across. It's easier than trying to take your car in. Yeah. There's Ubers as well. It's like a 20-minute Uber from the border to Rosarito Beach, where it is. There's definitely options to be able to get across.
Nice. And so let me just take you back to your pro debut. There was a couple of things that I wanted to ask about that one. Firstly was they had you listed at 5'4". Your opponent was, I think, 5'10", and it seemed like you were the taller of the two. How tall are you? You're definitely taller than 5'4", right?
Oh yeah, I'm 6'2". So the weight, I think the weight was right, but they put the gym name wrong. They put the height wrong. Even the commentators say it when they were looking at it before the fight. They're like, "Oh, it says he's 5'4", but I stood next to him and he's a good 6'2". So they called that out as they were commentating.
No, and that was the only reason. Like, if they, for instance, put him down as 5'2", I would have believed it. But like, they had him, I think, at 5'10" or 5'10", 5'11", and then you at 5'4", and I'm like, unless the camera angles are a bit different or something, I'm like, that don't make no sense to me, right? I was like, you definitely look the taller of the two.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely taller.
Now, also the other thing, and this is obviously when it comes to Muay Thai, I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to that side of things. The interesting thing I saw was obviously before the fight even commenced, which is obviously you guys jumped in, and I don't know, you guys were doing something, and I know the commentator said something that it was you blessed the ring or something like that, or where first you're on your knees and you're doing certain things, and then after that you're on your feet and you're kind of rolling out your hips, which is what it looked like for me. But they were saying like it's a tradition that you do when it comes to Muay Thai. Can you talk a little on that?
So it's called the White Crew or Ram Muay. It's a respect dance. It's a traditional thing that the Thais do before they fight. Usually the bows are done in threes. So when you start, go down, come back up, it can be like your gym, your trainer, your family, and your religion. It's usually the three. It's been done for Muay Thai since inception. You can see I've got the Mong Kong right there, the red thing that I was wearing on my head. That's another traditional headpiece that they wear during that dance. It's pretty good. I find it relaxes me as well before the fight. Like, gets me in the right headspace. Get to move a bit, stretch a bit as well, and really get a feel of the ring while you're doing it as well. That's one of the other things when they're like sweeping their foot and checking around, because before they fought in boxing rings, they were fighting on the ground, so they would like dance around the ring to check out where the uneven surfaces were and get a feel for where they're fighting.
Now, is it a rehearsed dance, or is it kind of more a freestyle motion with certain elements to it?
Each gym has their own, so you'll see more eccentric ones. Mine's pretty basic, more traditional. People like they'll pull bow and arrows out and shoot their opponents. They'll stamp on the ground. They'll hit the side of the ring. There's some more beautiful ones where people are like moving like a bird. You can see like animal movements with a lot of them as well.
Yeah, right. And so I guess it's kind of like the haka then, right? In its own kind of way. Yeah. It's your way of, I mean, when you're talking about shooting your opponents with bow and arrows, it's kind of like your war dance.
Yeah. So, yeah, for sure.
And with the headpiece, what did you say it was called?
It's called a Mong Kong.
A Mong Kong.
Mongkon.
Now, the one thing I noticed there as well is that your Mong Kong has a bell. Your opponent's didn't. Is there any sort of relevance to that?
Each one's like, everyone has like a different one. There's pretty standard ones, just like that red one was one of the standard ones, but I've had it blessed by monks. My trainer Paul gave me one of the amulets off our gym's Mong Kong, and I put it on mine as a blessing from him. So different Mong Kongs have different features, different shapes, different colors.
And is there any sort of like grading system to it as well? Like say like your BJJ belts or whatever, like do you like, or are they pretty much standard, obviously traditional headpieces, or is there like, you know, as you say, you get it blessed by certain people, but is there certain things that obviously over time, you know, it's more like a grading or no?
Not in that sense. People do use like Monkongs and the armbands. You might see some people wearing armbands in a fight. I used to wear them, but my biceps are a bit too skinny to hold them up, so they kept falling down, so I stopped wearing them. So people do use them for grading. You'll get like this color Monkong or that color armband, but grading in Muay Thai is a Western thing. It's not traditional with the Thai people.
Okay, nice one. Now with that fight as well, was it a on purpose or a mistake to start the fight without a mouthpiece?
That's the first time I've ever done it. The ref didn't check. I forgot. My corner forgot, and then I wore one in the mouth, and I was like, I felt my teeth chatter. I was like, I don't have a mouth guard in. Stop. Went and got it, and then the commission came up after me, and he blasted me for a bit, and I'm like, yeah, I forgot, and so did the ref. So.
But on the same token, the commission should take some responsibility there too, right? I mean, where was your guys? I mean, I don't know. Once again, when I see people walk to the cage, you have people from the commission patting people down, making sure they got, you know, their cup in, all that. So it's like, I just found it funny because the way it happened, and it wasn't even, it was probably halfway through that round, right? Like it wasn't like in the first sort of 20, 30 seconds. Like you had been in there for quite a bit. And the only reason I say on purpose as well is what I found with that fight was that I think, and I don't know if it was because it was your debut, but you started slow. I found that at the beginning, you know, you kind of had to settle in, and then as the rounds went on, you became the busier fighter, and I think that's what it was. So, you know, if you're going round by round, I would say maybe your opponent had the first round, and then the second, third, you kind of took over. And I just thought, maybe that's because obviously we all know with mouthpieces as well, you know, they can restrict your breathing and stuff like that. And I just thought, you know, was that a tactic that you had where you're like, oh, you know, like I'll keep it out for a little bit, and then obviously, as you say, you caught one in the mouth, and you're like, because to me, when I put my mouth guard in, I don't know how anyone can forget to put it in, like because. It's not like a thing that you have in and you don't notice it's there. Like generally speaking, and I'm even talking about good mouthpieces. I'm not talking about rubbish mouthpieces, but they're there. Like and so, like I was so amused when I saw that. I was like, how does that even happen? And to be honest with you, when it first happened, I thought you were telling him my mouthpiece fell out. Like, you know, like. And I was like, I didn't see nothing come out, like, you know, and then when you went to the corner or he went to the corner to grab your mouthpiece, I'm like, oh my God, he hasn't had it in that whole time. And it just kind of like, yeah, as I said, I was like amused by it, but I was kind of confused at the same time.
So with the mouth guard and the US healthcare system, there's no way I would have done it on purpose. Because getting your teeth fixed or getting any sort of healthcare here is absolutely ridiculous. It's very expensive. I have a proper fitted mouth guard. Shout out to Rhino Mouth Guards. Never had it come out once during a fight. Just that was the first time. I think I was just too excited to be back in the ring and having my pro debut. You know, it just didn't cross my mind.
And it didn't cross your coach's mind, and it didn't cross anyone. Rhino Mouth Guards, are you talking about the guys back here?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Down in Clovelly.
Yeah. He's same guy who does my mouth guards, so I know him well.
Yeah, he's done all my mouth guards since I started fighting. I'm going to have to come back and get a new one.
Nice. So listen, so you got this fight coming up, 14th of November. I'm assuming your date. So for us back here, it'll be the 15th. It's in Mexico. Have you had like a full? Because you were talking at the beginning about your gym being closed and stuff. Like how do you feel in preparation for this? Like do you feel comfortable? Have you had a full camp now? Have you got enough rounds in sparring and stuff? Like how are you feeling about this fight?
I feel really good. That first 3 months of the lockdown where the gyms weren't open, I drank a lot of wine and ate a lot of cheese. Got a bit fat, so after that, a couple of the boys started like, "Oh, you want to train? We'll go outside. We'll do this. We'll do that." So we had a crew, and then we started consistently training, and then things started to open back up slowly. So, and then when I got the call for the fight, because I harassed the promoter again to get me on. So how I got on the first card, I went to one of his shows. I was harassing him on Instagram. I was harassing him on Facebook. I went up to the show. I'm like, get me a fight. And it ended up working. So when he announced this one, I'm like, I've got to do it again. I've got to try my luck. It worked last time. And it ended up working again. So 7-week fight camp, I think, is enough. Built off the consistent training I was doing before that for the last 3 months. I feel good. I've been running, been sparring, been doing pad work, like high intensity stuff. I did a low carb weight cut for the first 2 weeks just to shift a bit of the water weight, and then introduced in some clean carbs. Watching all my macros. I've got a nutritionist who sorts out all my diet stuff. I used to cut hard for fights, sweatsuit, sauna, go for a run around the block in 40-degree heat in Australia to finish off that last kilo. I can't recommend getting a nutritionist anymore. Like it is the best thing I've ever done for my fight weight, especially when I had that comeback. When I moved to the US, I was, and I'm sorry for this, 185 pounds, because I don't remember the kilos, and I cut to 153, so about 70 kilos. So I was about 82 kilos down, so I had to drop about 12 kilos, and with a nutritionist guiding it, shout out to Marco from Your Nutrition Needs, I felt comfortable on weight before the fight, ready to go. So everything is looking good right now. No injuries. So feeling good.
And with the nutritionist, is it more a gradual thing? Like, because I know obviously with the water cuts, a lot of the times it's like leading into those last few weeks, you obviously water load, and then you dump it all out, right? But it's a very small window where with nutrition, I kind of think you gradually do it, right? Like it's not like you go all out and then in the last 2 weeks you go, okay, well we're eating nothing kind of thing. Like it's a more gradual thing, right?
Yeah, that's how I used to do it. I'll be like, just tuna and rice, just basic, like no idea about nutrition at all, to having a set plan. You weigh your food, you're using high quality ingredients, cut my dairy and gluten out.
Salt.
So yeah, you got to watch your salt intake for water retention, stuff like that. Everything's measured, and that way you can be ultra consistent with your goals as well. And you just watch it. It slowly comes off, but surely. And every couple of weeks it gets adjusted. So your intake numbers either go up or down depending on what your goals is. If you're trying to beef up or if you're trying to cut weight for a fight, but that way has been a game changer for me, because those sauna sessions that I used to do, like, one, they're dangerous. Two, they're shit. Sitting in a sauna for a couple of hours just to lose that last 500 grams, so you got nothing left in you. And I was doubtful that I was going to make 147, so 66 kilos, just because I hadn't been that weight in, I think it was 4 years since my last fight when I moved here. It was end of 2014, at end of 2018. The gap was in between fights. That so I was a little bit scared that I couldn't make it back down to that weight, but I feel good at that weight. I feel natural. I feel I can move better. I'm not weighed down. I'm generally taller than my opponents as well, so that helps. but works wonders.
See, I think
no water loading, no bars.
I think we're the same when it comes to that. I think in frame and everything. I think I mean, obviously I've probably got more of the ISO body right now. But you know, I'm 6 foot. Same thing. When I took my fight, I was meant to get down to 70 kilos. And I was ready. I had the sweatsuit. I had the sweet sweat. I had everything there in case. But I said the whole fight camp, I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to chip off, I think it was 500 grams a week. Right? It was 500 grams a week for the period of...
And that's an achievable goal too.
Right? For a period of 6 months or whatever it was. And I had to get down, as I said, I think I started at 83 or 84. And I had to get down to 70. And I had, as I said, the suit, everything ready to go just in case. Got on the scales. I was 68. So I was 2 kilos under my goal, my target weight. And I didn't sweat a bit. I didn't have to do anything, you know. And my opponent, I think he did the opposite. And it was weird because the whole camp, I was probably more nervous than him. But when we jumped on the scales, he was like 68, 69, so he was definitely under as well. But when we faced off, that's where all my confidence came from, and it was purely, I just could sense something. Like he was twitching a little, and I'm like, you've had a rough cut. You've had it, you know, like it really was. And look, don't get me wrong, I see the benefits too, because if you're trying to put all that weight back on by fight night, it's a lot harder to put on weight if you have gradually taken it off through dieting rather than the whole water loading and stuff, right? Like, so I do see benefits, but I just think the longevity, right? Whether it's the gas tank of a fight, I always say if you have a hard cut, you've got to get it in and out in the first 1-2 rounds, right? After that, it's always going to play to the other person. And also longevity in your career, because I just think, you know, someone who's cutting a lot of weight a lot of the time, they might have like a 10-year sort of career. And then someone who does it properly by dieting properly and eating correctly and stuff like that, they can have 15 years, you know. I don't know if you'd go 20 years, but you know what I mean? Like you can just last a lot longer. That's my opinion anyway, I guess.
So with that, the ridiculous weight cuts that I've seen, like people drop like 15, 20 kilos for a fight, it can't be good for you. Like that yo-yo dieting. You also, I don't think I've read a study about rehydrating the brain. You can't do that after a massive water cut. Your body physically can't get it ready. Even like a lot of the amateur boxing same day weigh-in, so they can't do those drastic weight cuts because then they'll feel like shit on that day. Whereas we had 24 hours to get back into the ring and rehydrate and sleep it off and pump the supplements and eat all the food to put as much weight as you can back on. But realistically, you can't. There's definitely no longevity in that. I know some people like John Wayne Parr used to cut a whole heap of weight and it seemed to work for him. But for me now is like, I don't want to do that to my body. I just want to make sure that it works right and put in the good food. Well, drink a lot of water.
That was like, I remember there was a UFC in Sydney, and it was the one when they had the flyweight tournament. And we were running around with Ian McCall, but on that night, I think they had Thiago Elvis. No, actually, it was the Sydney card before that, and they had Thiago Elvis, I think, fight Martin Kapman, and I remember him posting a picture that he had put on 32 pounds, like within 3 hours after the weigh-in, and like, mind you, this was still during that period where you could use IVs. Right? Yeah. So it, once again, different era, but I was like, because I always, look, I know it's not exact, but I always say pounds, it's 2 pounds to a kilo, roughly. So I'm like 32 pounds. I'm like, that's 16, maybe 15 kilos. I'm like, And I think literally he posted that 3 hours after weigh-ins, and I'm like, how can that even? How's that possible? So I know for a long time I was like, he's just posting that. Like, I don't even think that's real. And if it is real, like, how can that be good? And look, he ended up losing that fight. I remember Kepman actually beat him the next day, right? And it's like, I don't know. I just think that, yeah, me personally, and I've brought this up a few times, is like, if you could somehow find a way to get rid of weight cuts, I think we'd all be better. And I get it that, you know, you want to be the bigger guy, but I find that if everyone stopped, you'd be fighting the same guys just in a different division. But it's a matter of trying to get everyone to stop, because I do find that, you know, when you see these guys that stop doing these harsh cuts, they actually have a better performance. Yes, they're the smaller guy now because the other guys are coming down. But when you look at stamina and speed and all those other things that come with it, I just think you're actually a better fighter. You're a smaller fighter, but you're a better fighter.
Yeah, I think. So I usually walk around like 156, 157 when I'm training and eating good. So I can go up to like 160, 165 if I, after a fight, you know, just straight into In-N-Out Burger on the beers. But usually I walk around like in between 155, 160. So that weight cut isn't too bad from that position. But if you're like, as you said, that guy he put on 15 kilos. Did he drop that 15 kilos first and then put it back on? How is that any good for your body if you're doing that over a week, over 2 weeks? I know a lot of the places now, and ONE FC, they're doing staggered weigh-ins, and the commissions here are doing it as well. I had to weigh in at the weigh-in 24 hours, and then when I got to the fight before the show, I had to weigh in again. And if you exceed a certain amount of weight, I can't remember what it was, it might have been 10 or 12 pounds over the weight that you were fighting at, you'd get a tick against your name. And if you keep doing that, they'll end up saying that you cannot fight at this weight anymore. I think that's a good thing. I think that's good for the safety of the sport.
The way I see that they should potentially do it is like they do with the USADA testing, that they literally have people rock up to your fight camps, fight gyms at random. You jump on the scale, and whether it's 10% or whatever it is, 15%, you can't change. So if you're 10 weeks out, you've already got to be within 10% of your fight weight. This kind of thing. Like, look, you can cut a little bit or whatever, but I just, you know, hate seeing people put themselves through hell. And you know, when you sometimes see the footage and people are like, literally, as you say, the sauna. And you see, you know, them being dragged out of the sauna by their coaches, or even like, you know, basically walk to the scales during weigh-ins. And it's like, if you can't walk, what are you doing? Like, it makes no sense.
As a coach, you've got to make sure that your fighters aren't getting to that point. I think that's the difference between a good coach and a bad coach.
Nice.
I know ONE FC, one championship's doing staggered weigh-ins as well. So they'll weigh you a week out from the fight. I think, don't quote me on this, and they weigh you like twice before the fight within that week, just to make sure that you're not doing those silly cuts. So that's I think that's a good thing as well.
But as Eric said, I think he was like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, there was a death that sparked that. Right?
I didn't hear about this one.
Yeah, so before ONE FC introduced all these measures, someone died. So and that's the kind of, you know, extreme measures you have to take once you lose a life. And I guess that's when you look at that, you're like, okay, they're doing it for that reason. So are all these other organizations waiting, I guess, for someone to seriously get injured or potentially die before they introduce similar kind of rule sets? You know, it's a little crazy. But so with this fight, do you know much about it, about your opponent?
Young kid. He's 20 years old, 6'1". He's had, I think it's around about 50 amateur fights. I believe a few of them would have been youth fights, as he's only 20, unless he's been like ultra active. I think I've only had, this would be my 30th fight. Some years I did like 6 fights. Some years I did none. Some I did 2. You know, it's been pretty on and off for me, but can't keep me away. He had his pro debut online fight. There's no footage, but I don't really get too concerned about their style. I just go in and do my thing, work, and try and cut him open.
Nice. Well, that's what the elbows are good for, right?
Yeah.
Slice them and dice them.
Yeah, I've cut, I think 5 out of the last 6 fights that I've had, I've opened them up. I love elbows, are my favourite. So you take them away. Like, as I said, when I was kickboxing, I couldn't throw elbows. I threw 3 spinning back elbows in a kickboxing fight. It was my second fight too, and I took it on 2 weeks' notice. I was like, oops, my bad. Sorry. My last fight was with elbows.
Have you ever been cut open, like in a bad kind of way, or not? You've been lucky, because I know your last opponent, the one that we're talking about with your pro debut. He I think threw 3 or 4 spinning back elbows, right?
Oh yeah. That back elbow that he landed on my eye socket was decent. That flared up straight after. You can probably see me at the end of the fight going like this. It didn't cut though. It definitely rattled something inside. It was well timed, well landed. But I got the cut over his. I got a cut over his eyebrow just here, just a little one. I was like, yeah, I got you.
So
it's always fun when they start bleeding and you're like, I'm going to try and open that some more.
So what's the worst, I guess, injury or that you've suffered?
I haven't breathed out of the right side of my nose since my second fight. So when you throw spinning back elbows in a kickboxing fight, people get pissed off. And Simon just landed this straight punch on my nose, and it shut up on that side. Multiple broken ribs. Like, I've had three broken ribs in a fight, cracked ribs. No cuts. I had a fight there was another fight I took on notice for an Australian title. It's right there. 2 weight divisions up from what I usually do. Guy called Jordan Maslin from Melbourne. Leg kicks for days. He was ultra strong. Poor kid passed away now. He kicked the fuck out of my legs, and I ended up. I had leg problems before. I didn't know what was wrong, but after the fight, I found out I had a 20 centimeter tear in one of the quad muscles. It was 20 centimeters by 5 centimeters, and that one couldn't walk. Like, I was calling my trainer. I'm like, Paul, you need to get in my hotel now. As soon as the fight finished, I sat down. I'm like, I can't stand up anymore. It was at that point where if he got one more kick on me, I was going to call it a day. It was very close. I ended up stopping it with a spinning back elbow. So we both walked away. Like, he cracked his cheek, and I couldn't walk. So we were like, it was a pretty decent battle. But that 20 centimeter tear, not being able to walk properly, was that was a shit drive home from Albury back to Sydney. I'll send you the photo of my knee afterwards, so you can post it up here while we're talking.
Perfect. No, I definitely keen to check it out. But look, we're gonna start to wrap it up. But for people that do want to tune in, what's the best? You're talking about pay-per-view, Facebook. So what's the? It's on the 14th. For people in Australia, it's on the 15th. What's the Facebook page, I guess, that they should head to? What's the best way to, I guess, check out the action?
The promotion is called Triumphant Combat Sports. You can find them on Instagram or Facebook. I will post the link in my bio so people can head on over. The whole show is $8 US. It'll be streamed on Facebook Live. As I said, that's one of the first ones that they're doing. You can also buy some merch and help me out. There's another link on my bio right now for my merch store. But I'll send over the details to you as well, so you can put it all up and people can find it and watch it. I think there's 8 or 9 fights at the moment. There's a WMC Intercontinental title up for grabs, and there's a triumphant belt up for grabs as well for the main event card. So there's some decent fights on the card too. So definitely check it out. And $8, not bad for just getting back into the sport while nothing's been on, you know.
Perfect. And is it a total Muay Thai card?
Yeah, it's all full Thai rules. The good thing about Jeff is there's not a lot of beginners on the card. He likes to get top rank amateurs and pro fighters on the card. So it's that good stepping platform into Glory, One, Bellator kickboxing, stuff like that.
Nice. All right. Well, before I do get you out though, I'll just get you to give me a couple of little picks that I always like to do at the very end. Obviously this week when we're talking about titles, we've got Arlene facing Chris Cyborg, which was for the better part of the decade the baddest woman on the planet. They're fighting, I think, in Connecticut. This Friday, our time, Thursday, your time, for the Bellator belt. How do you see that fight going down? Who's your pick? I mean, I assume you're going to have to back the Aussie, but how do you see the fight going down?
Cyborg's a weapon, man. She's always exciting to watch. She's been dominant for a long time. Arlene's tidy as well. Like, you know, I'm gonna have to back Arlene on this one. So I'll definitely be tuning into that.
Cool. And then on the UFC basis, we've got Brian Ortega and the Korean Zombie battling it out this weekend as well. Who have you got for that one?
I think the Korean Zombie's gonna have to. I know he had a hard loss, so not long ago. I can't remember when it was. Everything's a bit of a time warp at the moment. I think he'll be fighting tooth and nail to get back to the top. So that'll be a good one to watch. Should be an exciting fight. Ortega's a weapon too, though.
Yeah. And then the weekend of my birthday, which is the following weekend, which is a perfect birthday present for me, the 24th of October.
Yeah.
We got first up, we've got Robert Whittaker versus Kenny Nee. So who have you got on that?
Yeah, Whittaker's going to take this one without a doubt. He's ready to get back up to the top as well.
And then obviously the main event, which is Khabib and Justin Gaethje. How do you see that one unfold?
If Gaethje can touch him, I think it'll be a very interesting fight. But I think Khabib's just going to wrap him up and just work him like he did Conor, and just wrap him up, tie him up in a knot, and just go good night.
See, the only difference I see on that is that Conor don't have the wrestling that Gaethje does. Like, Gaethje does have a wrestling background, and Conor didn't have that. So, yeah, I think Khabib's wrestling is elite and like is still better, but to say he's going to wrap him up like he did with Conor, I just don't think it'll be as simple as that.
We'll have to throw a tenner on it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look. I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at the odds, but I definitely. I'm assuming that Khabib's going to be the favorite, and I definitely would put a tenner on the upset. I mean, it's, you know, cheeky 10. I don't know.
Yeah, love it. All right, I'm down.
But yeah, on that note, I'm gonna wrap it up. I do, as I said, like I love the fact that you're living the dream over there, even though I guess at the moment the dream is better over here when, as I said, the landscape of what's going on globally and things like that. But for people that kind of want to reach out to yourself, whether it is to buy some merch or even just, you know, if there's some more Australians that are hovering around, or if, you know, they want to talk to you about some fight stuff or whatever, what's the best way of them kind of getting, like, have you got a website? What's going on?
So I've got a Facebook page. It's Andrew Ferry Floss Webb. You'll be able to find it on that, or at Muay Thai Flossy on Instagram. So they're my main channels. I don't have Twitter or anything like that. My merch website is in my bio at the moment. So I'll post. I'll leave that one up there, and I'll post the link in a post for the fight. People will be able to check it out there, or just hit me up and I can send you the link.
Nice. Well, there you have it. As always, I'd like to just always say thank you for coming along. It's always a little bit tougher when there's different time zones involved and things like that. Look, I wish you all the best, not just obviously in staying safe while you're over in the States and hopefully, I mean, I want to get it back over to the States as soon as I can. So hopefully, you know, all this stuff starts to blow over pretty soon. You know, as we just did with the fighter picks, my pick is that you're going to beat this guy purely as well because, you know, that's what us Aussies do. But no, look, best of luck for the 14th/15th if you're in Australia. Hopefully we'll get a few people tuning in. I really do appreciate your time, and hopefully we can get you on, I guess, after the fact, and maybe we can have a little chat about how the fight sort of played out. And I guess that's where we're going to call it quits. So until next time, that is it. I'm